Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Heike John, Senior Market Advisor at Enterprise Ireland Düsseldorf. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our fourth webinar, Market Watch, the View from Germany. Today's webinar was organized by my colleagues Nicole Hoppe, Quiva Gordon, and myself. The topic we will discuss today is managing and supporting channel partners in Germany. Our webinar will be recorded and made available on Enterprise Ireland's Global Ambition website in the next few days. We will notify you when the recording is available. Should you have any questions, you can post them as they arise. They will be answered at the end of each presentation. We are very lucky today to have three experts that made themselves available in order to share their deep knowledge and experience with us. Our first presenter is Paul Browne. He's a program manager for Enterprise Ireland's Enter the Eurozone program. He also looks after several other EI sales and marketing programs that help EI clients prepare for working in markets such as Germany. Previously, Paul was the manager of Enterprise Ireland's offices in Amsterdam and Brussels. And before joining Enterprise Ireland, he worked in several key European markets when running his own business. Paul will discuss some development programs starting soon that will be of relevance to you as Enterprise Ireland clients. Brian English will follow. He's an engineer and marketer who has worked in international sales for 30 years. His company, Qupact International, develops sales and routes to markets for its clients. Brian has a deep understanding of the intricacies of closing sales in international markets through reseller networks. And finally, Dr. Andrea Seidel from Dr. Seidel Life Science will discuss expanding business within the German market. With a wealth of experience in business development and strategic partnerships, Andrea focuses on assisting companies identify and avail of their in-market growth potential. Paul, may I ask you to start our session and provide us with some details about upcoming programs for our clients?
That's great. I'm just going to check that the sound quality is okay. You can hear me, Heike, okay?
Absolutely, it's fine. Thank you, Paul.
Okay. That's fantastic, and I'm delighted to see the numbers of people still joining the call as well. As Heike introduced me, I run a number of training and development programs for Enterprise Ireland, and the model that we operate is that there's a lot of work that we can do here in Ireland to help you prepare before you even get on the plane to work with Heike, Nicole, Roisin and colleagues, and Kiva as well, actually in the German market as well. And it actually plays quite well for the times we find ourselves in that we're a little bit more restricted in travel, but there's a lot that we can be thinking of already in terms of expanding in the German market. Before I go on to mention four particular programs that I just want to bring to your attention, we did a very quick survey amongst some clients that we're going to do our next program, our next Enter the Eurozone program. And I think all of us have had a full roller coaster of emotions over the last 10 to 12 weeks. But what was very interesting with those clients, we went out to about 30 companies and we asked them, look, how are you doing? Is it everything from survival through to, look, I want to start this program as ASAP? And 3/4 of them came back within 24 hours saying, no, we absolutely want to get on with this. We want to get on with it now. Can we do it sooner rather than later? And that includes a couple of companies that, would be sharing with us that they're, the sales figures have gone off the cliff, but they see this kind of activity. They see this exploring new markets in Germany or doing more business in Germany as part of their recovery plan as well. So it's to kind of reassure you that there is a lot of pain out there, but there is also a lot of optimism. And I think naturally the kind of companies that are on this call would probably tend towards the planning and the optimism end of the spectrum. So I'm going to run through four particular programs to put in your attention to help you prepare. If I can go on to the next slide there. So there's two that you're seeing on this slide at the moment. So the first of these, and this will follow naturally from the speakers you're going to hear in a couple of minutes' time. A lot of what you'll be doing with market entry will be around finding out the facts on the ground. What region in Germany should I be targeting? Who are my competitors there? How do I find the leads and the partners that Brian is going to be talking about in a couple of minutes? And we have a product, and the link is there, Excel at Market Intelligence. Fully online. It gives you the skills to actually do that market research and is supported by a business advisor as well as you go through that online journey. So I think these slides are available afterwards, but I would encourage you to click through and to look at that. The second product, the second program I want to bring to your attention is if you find yourself in a situation where you're very enthusiastic, you've been inspired by the speakers you're going to hear on the call today, you go back and you're trying to bring your team along with you, the strategic marketing review is a very good next step for you to take. So it's all about aligning your team around your sales effort going into Germany, keeping the sales effort going in Ireland and the UK as well. And it's often the first time that the team sit down together and talk about anything, not just their sales and marketing strategy. We have lots of evidence. It is very, very effective, and there is a digital version of that my colleagues have published to make it available in the restrictions that we have in these couple of weeks. I'm just going to go on to the second side of two there. And the final two programs I want to put your attention to, the first on the slide is the one that Heike mentioned in the introduction, which is the Enter the Eurozone program. So this program is delivered in conjunction with our partners, ESMT in Berlin, who are in the top 10 business schools worldwide, but also our business advisor partners, IMS Marketing in Galway. Now, we just won an award for this in the last couple of weeks. It is very, very strong feedback from clients, and the focus is on taking clients from where you are now to a market entry plan to get your first significant contract in any Eurozone market. So it's worked very effectively for 7 companies into Germany, but it's across the Eurozone. That is going to be running again in Q4. And again, the link to find out more and my own contact details are at the URL that you see on screen. The final program that I want to put in front of you is the International Selling Program. And our partners are in TU Dublin. The difference with this is an even more heavyweight program. Into the Eurozone is 3 to 4 months. International Selling Program is 12 months. It is a heavyweight sales and marketing plan, very effective. It also carries an academic qualification as well. So often people are attracted to this because it's career development as well as doing the right thing by the business. And also this is opening up. We will be running it again in Q3, Q4 of this year, and we will be recruiting shortly. So details of my colleague Mariam Dadabay, who runs it, are at the links that you see on screen. I'm going to stop there because there's plenty more detail if you want to explore the links. I'm really looking forward to hearing Brian talk because we've engaged with him before, and I know I learn something different every time. But maybe when you're looking back after the webinar, I'd encourage you to take a look at those, find out a little bit more, see how they match with your own plans for the German market. Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul, for the introduction to the programs. So far, I can't see any questions have been sent. So I would suggest, as there might be questions at a later stage, that we will pass them on to you and then share the question amongst the participants, if that's okay with you.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I'm just putting my email into the chat so people have that available if they want to ask any questions directly about the program as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you as a group.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for taking the time and for joining us this afternoon. It's much appreciated. Thank you. And I would like to introduce now Brian English to you. He's the founder and managing director of the company Qupact International. He's based in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. Brian graduated in electronic engineering from Trinity College in Dublin and later achieved a diploma in marketing of the Marketing Institute of Ireland. Qupact was set up in 2003 by him, and he launched a program to guide companies through the complex task of setting up and managing third-party sales channels in international markets. Qupact today focuses on 3 core areas of channel development: corporate training and executive education, consulting for companies in need of channel development expertise, and contract sales development. Additionally, Brian continues to deliver on various postgraduate training programs at the IMI, TUD, and management programs offered by Enterprise Ireland. And Brian, may I hand over to you now?
Sure. Am I getting slides, or will I just click through straight away, Caoimhe?
Yes, you can click through now.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Heike has covered pretty much everything in the introduction. I have a couple of slides just on our company and background, which, Cleva, you're going to have to click through for me. Okay, so I was going to talk today a little bit just about the channel structures in Germany and the support that you as suppliers from Ireland could offer your channels in Germany, and with particular, focus on the current situation in Europe brought about by the COVID-19 epidemic. So if you can click again, please, Cleva. So our business is really all about the connection between the vendor and the end customer. You people in Ireland, companies in Ireland being the vendor, and how to reach end customers in Germany. So when we go to do a market research piece, we would look quite a lot of detail at competitors in the local market, but also at suppliers of complementary goods and services. And all of these competitors and suppliers of complementary services, as well as you, are competing for the same channel partners, the same route to markets, and you're competing for mind share in those companies. So that's really where our focus is, on that little blue diamond in the middle of that diagram. If you go on, please, Cleva. So, as Heike has said, our business is really in three parts, where we provide route to market consulting support for SaaS app companies, services providers, and for manufactured products. And that would include everything from developing the strategy through to profiling the types of partners that you need to get market coverage at different tiers in the pyramid. We also do education, and Paul referred to the International Selling Program. We deliver Module 7 on that, which is the route to market module, as well as some other programs. And then a large part of our business is actually executing sales on behalf of our clients. So finding customers and making sales happen. And that's the part of the business that we really live by. That's the part that that provides the revenue that allows us to continue to operate. So you can have the next slide, Cleva. So when we were asked to look at this, we said we would have a look at the COVID-19 situation around Europe, and we've been working with this diagram for the last month or 6 weeks, and we've been trying to keep it up to date. So we looked at 12 of Europe's major markets, and we include Russia and Turkey in those. And if you just look at the diagram as a sort of an eye chart, you can see that there's a lot of green area in the diagram on the 27th of May. And the orange areas are the sectors in different countries which will open up between now and the middle of July. So continental Europe, and including Russia, is really going to be very much open for business and approaching some level of normal operation by the middle of July. You can see there in the different sectors, the hospitality sector is largely open, or opening next Monday, and contact businesses, schools, parks, golf courses, all of those kind of things are really already open. So the only things that are significantly impacted throughout the summer appear to be large events, large gatherings of people, football matches, rugby matches, sporting events. And I think many countries don't yet have a very good fix on when they're going to be able to allow large gatherings again. So we've got to work with what we have. And I'm going to talk now about what things suppliers could do to try and optimize the performance of their channel partners in Germany over the coming few months. So we took a look at this thing and we said it would be interesting to look at it in 3 different time phases. So immediately in the 27th of May through to the middle of June, there are some things that we can do which will impact how our channels perform. And then there are some other changes, some actions that we would and could take that could mitigate economic impact between now and the end of the pandemic. And it's very unclear when the end of the pandemic is likely to be, whether we get a resurgence in the autumn, whether the licensing of remdesivir or some other antiviral treatment is going to have a significant impact, whether AstraZeneca's vaccine is effective and can be made in large enough quantities to have an impact on our markets by the time the winter comes. So we're not really sure whether the pandemic end is 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, but there are some actions that we will have to focus on between now and the end of the year to help our channels. And then I think that the whole experience of the last 3 or 4 months has produced some permanent changes in the way we do business and in the supports that we offer our channels. And I've looked at these in sort of 3 main ways. If you could click, Quiva. And I think the immediate problem facing channels and the immediate challenges with which they need assistance are to do with liquidity. I think between now and the end of the year, many of our channel partners are going to start to focus on profitability for 2020 and how to mitigate the decline they've seen in revenue between March, April, May, and whether they can recover enough to cover the costs and deliver profitability in their businesses this year. And I think the third thing, you could click on it, Quiva, is to do with the more longer term changes, like how companies acquire new customers. How are we going to fulfill the demand that is created, recognized, or brought to us by our channel partners? And how are we going to communicate with channel partners and with customers? It certainly seems that there will be more restrictions on the freedom that we've had to travel up until now. So there may be some permanent changes in the way we do these things. So the first point really is about partner liquidity, and as I see it, there are a number of things that we could do. There are many partners asking for extended credit terms across Europe, and there are many suppliers who are not much better positioned than the partners themselves to offer extended credit terms. But one tool that we do have in the single European zone, and Ireland and Germany are both in that, in the Eurozone, is this tool called SEPA. And SEPA enables customers to give their suppliers a mandate to withdraw funds from their bank account on a set date. And we use it extensively in continental Europe for paying for things even like plane fares. And if it's used by private people, they have a statutory right to revoke the payment after the mandate has been granted. And that statutory right is inalienable. But between companies, it is allowed for companies to sign a waiver so that your customer would not be able to revoke the mandate. And that's definitely a tool worth looking at if you're in a position to give extended credit terms, but you're concerned about not being paid at the end of the new credit period. One other thing that we've discussed with some customers is the possibility where they're supplying capital equipment for large building projects or for fit outs, is to ask their customers to make payments in phases, where the upfront payment covers the capital equipment cost to the supplier, but there would be some kind of a subscription model entered into then to extend payment of the margin part of the price over a longer period. And that's definitely worth looking at if you're in a position to fund that type of credit. Many of us have contracts with partners which specify minimum lead times and specify maximum numbers of inventory turns that partners should have in a year. And maybe we can review contracts. Maybe you could look at supplying your partners on shorter lead times and having them carry lower levels of inventory in the German market in order to improve the liquidity in their businesses. Some companies have a product or a solution which could be considered modular. And by that I mean that instead of delivering finished product to your channels, you may be able to deliver lower cost in-process inventory to channels and allow them to configure and final assemble the solutions in the market where they're adding more cost and more value at the point of sale rather than further back in the supply chain. And that would certainly contribute to improved liquidity in the channel. Lease purchase arrangements have been around for a long time, but there is plenty of cash in some of the financial companies that offer these types of arrangements. And if you haven't looked at these types of payment methods before, it's certainly worth looking into them to see whether or not they could be viable. And there's another possibility which some client companies are using, which is instead of selling to distributors who pay them, hold the stock and then collect the receivable from the end customer, some of our client companies are invoicing the end customer directly and then paying a commission to the distributor on direct sales. And that's one method of certainly preventing the distributor from having to buy a lot of inventory and fund a lot of receivables. But it does carry some risk with them because you're effectively creating an agency relationship with the distributor, and that could bring you under the auspices of the Commercial Agents Directive, which is very forcibly used in the German market. So I'll just give you one example. The Commercial Agents Directive was a piece of legislation that was introduced in the 1990s, and it's designed to agents. And in Germany, the form of compensation or the form of payment to a terminated agent was based on the German Commercial Code, which required agents to be paid 2 years remuneration based on the average of the last 5 years if they were terminated by a principal. So you do need to be careful. It might sound like an attractive method of quickly increasing sales, and to many companies it sounds like a no cure, no pay solution. It can be that, but I would advise caution and make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. The case of Mr. Parks versus Esso was in the United Kingdom, where Parks ran a garage for Esso oil products. And he ran a shop which had lubricants and a car wash for his own benefit. And the sale of the fuel, this transaction is quite interesting because Esso remains the owner of the fuel that's in the tanks in the petrol station until the customer has actually paid for them and title has transferred. So Esso sets the fuel price. And they terminated Mr. Parks's franchise and said, we don't want you to run our garage anymore. Whatever the reasons were, they said it was for cause, and they said that he had breached his contract. And he sued them under the Commercial Agents Directive, and he argued that because he was a commercial agent, he was getting a commission on the sale of fuel by Esso to motorists, and that he was therefore entitled to compensation under the directive. And it went to the High Court in England. And I mention it here specifically because the court upheld Esso's position that Mr. Parks was not a commercial agent because he didn't have an authority to negotiate sales, only to close them. And that's quite an interesting distinction, because to be protected under this directive in Germany, the agent or the distributor must have continuing authority to negotiate sales on your behalf. So think about stuff like this, and I would say to you, don't be afraid to use the tools that are available, the structures that are available, but by the same token, don't go into them unknowingly, and make sure that you know what you're doing if you're moving from one model to another. So what can we do about partner profitability? Essentially, there are only two ways in which a business can improve its profitability. One is to increase revenue, and the other is to decrease costs. And if I'm talking about increasing revenue, there are a number of things which you may want to consider doing with your partners over the coming months. And remember, when I was talking about profitability, I'm thinking about the period from now until the end of the COVID pandemic, which could be September, October, November, December, whenever we see the worst impacts of it behind us. So joint promotions are a good idea. I think many companies are doing this. Many companies are looking at price reductions. They're looking at packaging additional products or services to compete harder in the market. And all of those things are good. And again, there are some things that you've got to watch out for in Germany. It's at the heart of Europe and the heart of the European regulations on antitrust behavior. So I'll just give you an example of one of these restrictive practices. If you could click through, Quiva. Microsoft in 2008, when the children in Germany were going back to school at the end of the summer holiday, they wanted to do a promotion with Office, Home and Student. So they made an agreement with the Microsoft resellers. I'm going back to the days now when software was sold in boxes as opposed to downloaded from the internet. But they made an agreement with the resellers which included financial support from Microsoft. But somehow in the discussion with the resellers, they imposed conditions that appear to have made the receipt of financial support contingent on the resellers fixing minimum prices. And there was a ruling by the Competition Commission, and the wording of it, I just read it out. It said, not every contact between a supplier and a retailer regarding resale prices constitutes an illegal concerted practice. However, it must not lead to a form of coordination where the supplier actively tries to coordinate the pricing activities of the, that you don't overstep the boundaries of fair competition, antitrust legislation, and don't get involved in fixing the end sell prices that your partners in Germany charge customers in that market. So Nintendo was another interesting example of a company that fell foul of these regulations also. And this is something that we see regularly in Central Europe. Nintendo had distributors in these regions there where the red dots are. So in France and Portugal, Italy, the United Kingdom, Sweden, and Greece. And they had a problem because they had a pricing structure which enabled some distributors, depending on the currency in which they were buying and the volumes of product that they were buying, to access lower pricing. And what they did was they imposed an obligation on each distributor to prevent parallel trade, which meant that from low cost to high cost markets. So it meant that if, for example, a distributor in the UK was able to buy the product from Nintendo at a much lower price than the guy in Belgium, they were trying to prevent him from selling it to other customers in Belgium who would then sell it on in competition to the official Belgian distributor. So under Nintendo leadership, the distributors collaborated to identify the parallel importers and to try and prevent this. And distributors that allowed parallel imports to continue were punished by Nintendo with smaller allocations of product, or they were cut off completely. And the European Competition Authority was very unhappy with this. So they fined Nintendo $149 million and they fined their distributors 19 million euro. So you've got to be aware that if you're doing promotional work with your partners in Germany and customers are seeking to buy your products from other markets, or your French or UK or other EU distributors are selling in competition to your German distributor, you've got to be very careful about the actions that you may take to prevent that sort of competition and to protect the German distributor from it. So what do we do about end customer acquisition? It seems to me over the past month that end customers have become very comfortable with using platforms like Zoom and GoToMeeting and Teams in a way that they were not inclined to do before all of this. Migration to online customer acquisition in Switzerland, Austria, and Germany outperforms any other markets in the European Union. So it's very much an ingrained mentality in these markets, and I would urge you to really exploit that to your advantage. One of the other things you may be able to think about is drop shipping to save cost and time. And drop shipping simply means that the distributor, your partner in Germany, invoices the customer, but instead of you shipping product to their warehouse and them shipping it on, you drop ship to the customer. And this is very much a model that's used by large online retailers. And I would urge you to really look at your partner networks in Germany and see where value is being added and where cost is being added. Because I think that customers have become very attuned to that difference over the last 5 or 6 months. You can have relationships with your partners and customers. Many companies, many suppliers, especially in the retail space, court end customers. They cultivate relationships with them, but they have no transactional relationship with them. So there is no problem in promoting and your products and acquiring customers and routing the transactions through your partners. One of the experiences that we've had over the last months is migrating very complicated technical training from classrooms to online, and we've done that very successfully. We've migrated one full 5-day technical training program to an online platform, and it brought additional advantages in that it enabled us to have participants from different continents and different time zones at the same session. Quite a lot of work involved in making it effective, and you certainly can't do 8-hour days, 5 days in a row when you do it in this format. We ended up doing 4-hour sessions, 3 days a week over 3 weeks. But it requires you to rebuild your training programs. But I would say in my years of experience that the most effective partners, almost without exception, are the best trained partners. So please don't lose sight of customer training, both technical and commercial, during this difficult period. How do you get partner mindshare? There are many, easy ways, cheap ways to do that. You could pivot your website without a whole lot of time and investment of money. There are platforms out there like Weebly, like AppyPie, for developing apps, which can be tremendously valuable to the salespeople in your partner organizations. We have one client who developed a new website in 2 days, and an iOS and Android app in about 3 days for €500 a year. So these kind of tools are there, and I would encourage you to look at stuff like this and see what measures you can take to capture mind share of the salespeople. And you know, I mentioned face-to-face partner meetings because I always say that you should break bread with your partners and spend time with them. And even though that may not be possible physically, certainly online and virtual meetings are possible. And then there are some interesting, you know, models out there. Stella is a Dutch bicycle company that started off manufacturing electric bikes, and they decided they would have no retail. So they don't have any retailers, they don't have any wholesalers, and they've set up a number of showrooms where people can go, test their products, and then they place an order which is custom built in the factory within sort of 10 days and then delivered directly to the customer. Retailers like Zalando, Zara, and Lancome, they all have online clothes fitting or makeup products where you can upload data about yourself, where you can upload photographs of yourself, and they create a virtual showroom or a virtual fitting room. So there are plenty of tools out there that I would encourage you to think about, and I would encourage you to talk to your partners so that they don't feel threatened by anything you're doing in the German market to try and cultivate new customer relationships. And that's all I've got, unless there are some questions. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your attendance.
Brian, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and for sharing all your insights with us. So I haven't received any questions as of yet, and I would suggest that we move on now, and if there are questions at a later stage, we can address them. And in the past, we also had situations where we were sent questions 2 or 3 days later, so we would then share them with you and provide the answers then to the audience. So thanks a million for joining us this afternoon. It was a pleasure having you.
Sure.
So, and I would like to hand over now to my colleague Nicole Hoppe, who will guide us through the second half of this webinar. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole?
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Heike. I'm Nicole Hoppe, Market Advisor, Life Sciences, Cleantech and Aerospace in the Düsseldorf office. I would like to introduce our next speaker on today's webinar, Dr. Andrea Seidel. She set up her own consultancy company after gaining her experience in business development and channel partner management working for a medical device company. She's going to talk to us about how to identify, manage, and successfully work with a channel partner.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for the introduction, and welcome to everybody listening. So it's a pleasure for me to be here and explain a little on the special German market. My home is life science, but being a German, it is always good to understand what the market is about. And when I do business with life science companies, my priority is on structural and organizational development. We are part in marketing and sales, organize distributor networks, and focus on communication. But these days, having a virus worldwide, it is a special situation, not only in Ireland and Germany, but Germany seems to be a special market, as restrictions on the current situation throughout Germany vary in severity. So depending on the state government of the federal state, it might impair the business more or less. So if we take the Düsseldorf office of Enterprise Island, which is in North Rhine-Westphalia, there you will not face that dramatic impact than you compare where I'm located in Bavaria, where we had almost the strongest lockdown, which is now slightly and slowly giving us a space and time to recover and to go back to business. And so, Kriva, if you switch over to the next slide, please. First of all, I would like to start with some information which might be good to know about Germany. So what is typical German? If we look at the obstacles, if you are successful with your product in any other territory outside Germany, so let's say in the US or in Ireland and the UK, this does not automatically mean that you will be successful here in Germany as well. The problem here is that winners can lose, and even good marketing displaces products which are even superior in technical purposes. But due to the marketing, these technical superiority is catched, and the product is not as successful as everybody would have assumed before. In addition to that, Germany, is dedicated or has to follow general requirements in the life science. We have plenty of that, especially the medical device regulations. But all of us are covering or have to fulfill the data security, GDPR, or any cyber security. And if you compare German behaviors with other European countries, the customers expect the fulfillment pretty much more than in other territories. So Facebook is still not used from so many people. It's getting more and more used for sure, but customers really look at certificates, clinical trials, permits, verifiability, etc. And this you should bear in mind if you go to think about a marketing strategy into Germany, because end users and customers in Germany, they rely on trust marketing. So they prefer personal contact, which is nowadays not possible anymore. So everybody has to think about how can we address our customer on a trust marketing way without meeting them in person. Therefore, it's always good to take time to choose the right channel. Is it a distribution partner? Is it a wholesaler? Is it a field sales force that you book or that you set up by yourself? And even the product positioning may be different due to the setup in Germany. So if we take the life science market, for example, we have pharmacies, we have drugstores, and what you get in Ireland in a drugstore, you will never see in Germany. So have a close look how the situation and regulations are for your product to find the right channel to sell the product into the German market. And going to the trust marketing, these days with the pandemic, well, caused some struggles, because some of the companies like BMW, VW, or Porsche, they received fundings for short-term work, but on the other side, from the state government, but on the other side, they paid high dividends to their stakeholders. So they played with their trustability they have established in the market. And German customers will now, from now on, critically look at what these companies are doing, because if they get money from the state government, on the one hand to pay their employees, but on the other hand they pay high funds and high amounts to their stakeholders, this is nothing which German customers would understand. A second example is that the German government allowed to minimize rental payments for companies, small companies, single-person shops, etc., to make them be able to overcome the closure of their shops. But unfortunately, even big companies stepped on this as well, and they withheld the rental payments. And the biggest example was Adidas. And for sure, you might imagine that throughout Germany, this was an action which could not be explained to the customers, that a company with high sales through internet, being successful and earning money over years, from one day to the next is not willing to take over their responsibilities and making sure that at the end of this pandemic, everybody who can pay and be able to take the responsibility tries to hide. So there was a big a problem after they published that they withheld the rental payments, and now they are, let's say, gambling away the trust of the customers. And the last example which I would like to give to you is on the vaccine development. There's Sanofi on the one hand versus a German company which is called Qupact, and both of these companies attended a meeting with the US government. And Qupact immediately said that they will not give any advantage or preferred sales of possible vaccine to the US government, whereas Sanofi clearly stated that they will do so. And this is definitely something which is, clearly watched from German customers to decide whom will we support. And probably this is something you should bear in mind if you enter the German market. So let's switch over to the next slide, where I would like to give you some insights what your homework should be before, or should be done before you're entering a German market, and what might be different to what you have to do in other territories. But this is something which is not only necessary during the pandemic or any influence which is caused by the pandemic, but is always a good thing to do and to be aware of. The first thing is be clear about your goal. What is your product? What is the advantage and disadvantage? What is your unique selling point? And all these together gives you a calculation of the added value and the price you need or want to get for your product. In a second step, you should be clear about the customer. What is the need and what is the benefit? And probably it's always good to have a best practice experience from the US, from the UK, from Ireland, so that you know, okay, if we address this marketing slogan, if we address this kind of customer type, this helps to be successful in Germany as well. So then you have a basic to look for your partner, and Brian already brought in some good ideas what has to be done to search for a partner. There are these enterprise island programs which might help to get a clear understanding on how to approach the customers or right partners here. And then if you have a list of people or a list of companies that might be the right partner for you to approach German market, make sure that they are clear about the product, because the problem can be that you have an additional end user customer who is struggling you because they do not understand your product. And then they are wasting your time, but not supporting you to be successful selling into the German account. And they will not be the right people to address your product and all the benefits that are available with it to the end users, but they are the voice you are using for approaching the German market. It is always good to see what is the experience from everybody in the market. Do they know more or less what to do with the product range? Is it fitting? Is your product fitting into the product range of your potential partner? And for sure, do they really reach the customers? So this is a critical question you should always address once you're getting closer to negotiations for a partnership with anybody here in Germany as well. Because there are small and big ones, and it's always too good to see, do they really reach the patient? Do they really reach the user? Do they really talk to the companies and customers you would like to get your product sold into? and then you are able to define a common goal. So just go ahead with a partnership. You should directly talk to these people. In the past, I have recognized that companies from abroad approach German companies through another partner which was located somewhere in Europe. But finally, the success in the one country in Europe could not be transferred to the German team. And if you are not getting hold of the people who are in charge in a market, this is always causing problems. So make sure that however your construct may look like, that you have access to the direct sales responsibles in the German market. And if we look at the partnership finally, for sure you will agree the clear targets and milestones, you will commit on clear responsibilities, you should make sure that you have regular exchange and, like in the situation we are currently in, be able to adapt measures so that you listen to your partner and the partner listens to you. So you're a team. And don't forget to create timelines according to your branch or product. If you launch a product, it makes sense to have it available in the German market once the product is needed. So for example, if you have something for the winter, if it's a technical equipment, if it's whatever, just make sure that you're coming up at the right time and not once the period is over. Or if there's a good opportunity to participate at a big event and you can launch the corporation or the new product or your business, just be there together with your partner. So next slide, please, Kriva. If we take the Corona influence, this is for sure depending on the market. So the life science market, which is my field I'm working in, we are a systematically relevant business. But even if we are relevant at the moment and the business is more or less unaffected through the current pandemic, it might be other for your business market. So is it beneficial or slowing down? Have a good look on that and see what might be a right impact to overcome any slowdowns, etc. If we look at the marketing, we know that Germany is a market where or lots of sales is generated through personal contact. I know that I bought with person XYZ all the time. So this is not possible anymore. Just think about what might be alternatives. Is it a sampling? Is it an advertisement? Is it a recommendation reseller program? Can you support the partner? Is there kind of idea you can use to address the customer through another way? Are you able to provide material for special campaigns like advertisements, discounting programs? Can you set up events like this webinar here, or do trainings, as Brian also recommended in his presentation? And if you are already an established company with having products which are successful in the market, but you're fearing to struggle, then it's time to set up a digital distributor meeting and get everybody in the game exchanging their best practice ideas. So what has worked in Australia, in the US, wherever, might also be interesting to be implemented in Germany. So make sure everybody is talking to each other and that all your support from everywhere is bundled into one direction. So what might be some opportunities to overcome the current situation if you're working with local partners in Germany or throughout Germany? So just take a close look if there are any fundings which might be interesting for you and your partner to work on additional product development programs. So for sure in life science, we have vaccine development and virus control medication, which will receive additional fundings from the EU and Germany. What about the supply chain? Are you depending on China or India to receive some of the product or some of the parts for your product? And if so, is it possible to change the production to an on-site production in the EU or Germany? Or is there any need to be to have a local availability of your core technology? And moreover, what kind of opportunities occur from there? Adjust the payment targets and see obligations, provide your knowledge, create ideas, always together with your partner. Going to the next slide, what is, from my understanding, important for the German market? Just be sure, is it affected by Corona? And if so, can you create some countermeasures together with your partner to overcome? Is there a benefit from an unexpected upswing, which finds needs and developments to make you become innovative? Or do you, are you able to fast adjust any changes to new concepts? Then look if there are any investments available, probably from the German government through your partner. And then it's always good to know that you should have a close look on the partner and listen to what they are telling to you. Have proper German material available for marketing purposes, and try to address local needs like new go-to-market strategy, which is adopted to the German needs and responsibilities. And then, of course, I see that the current situation is giving us not only some stuck in business, but also opportunities. And for sure, here, interdisciplinary and complex cooperations might be interesting. The more flexibility you can bring in to sell your product into the market, this helps to be successful even due to this time. And be available in person. So whenever you have a partner, even now or in let's say general markets, have a dedicated available person in your team that is answering requests from Germany and of course from all over the world. And then frank and be open to what is possible from your end as well. One nice story which I would like to address to you, because there was a hackathon. Yeah, it's just 1 second left.
Okay.
To overcome, just with the beginning of the pandemic, there was an IT security company in Germany looking what might be important or useful to overcome these worst days with no soccer, no sport games, etc. And within short time and very initiative, they set up an app which is called My Applause, which now should bring some fun back into Trista's games and overcome the frustration to be locked in the apartment. So this company showed that they had an opportunity and they took it with high efforts and manpower. So they are successful now. So if you click to the last slide, I'm rushing through. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to participate at this webinar, and for sure I would like to appreciate your attention listening to me. And I think taking together what has been shared from Brian, from Paul and myself, there is one thing you should have to overcome this pandemic situation, but also a general success in Germany. Start with a plan and have fun talking to the people by phone, by Zoom, whatever, and be close to your partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. So I do have some questions. One question is maybe for Brian and Andrea. Do you see opportunity to develop new customers who would need to visit and audit your factory first, but cannot due to travel restrictions? What is the best way to approach this challenge?
I would recommend to see if there's an opportunity to have a local person taking over, so that the company from abroad takes a local person in charge to take over this personal visit. I don't know what kind of regulations are there.
We've been able to do that with one client in Saudi Arabia who needed a factory audit done in North America, and they were able to get a local contractor to go and do the audit on their behalf. So that's a surmountable problem.
Okay. Another question for Andrea. Andrea, you said we won't find the same things in a German pharmacy. What did you mean by this?
It is a regulatory thing that some medicines are available in the US, in the UK, and in Ireland in drugstores. And the regulation in Germany is slightly different. So some of the products, which are generally OTC, are not allowed to be sold through drugstores in Germany. It's a legal limitation, and they are only available through pharmacies. And there are some regulations in addition, so that you probably have to check whether you fulfill the requirements to be available in a drugstore, or if your product, due to the regulation, has to be sold through a pharmacy. And then you have to fulfill some more or less regulations and legal paperwork.
Okay, another question to the both of you. Do you have access to partners that supply into the automotive retail sector?
Me not, I'm sorry.
Automotive
okay,
retail, no, not the retail part, no.
Okay, but Connell, who asked this, contact us, and we will make contact to our colleague who is in the automotive sector, and he might have an expert or whatever you're looking for in this sector. And then there was another question about the slides. We will make them available to you. One more question. Are German distributors across various industry less inclined now to pay upfront for product given the financial issues? Is this happening on the ground? Any feedback on this?
Yes, absolutely, it's happening. No question about it. Customers just do not want to pay up front.
Good. So if there are more questions, let us know. We will get you answers. And cautious of the time, I would just wrapping up today's session. The presentations and insights have given us lots of food for thought as to what we need to be doing to find the right channel partner, and more importantly, how to manage this relationship, especially in these times. So the webinar has been recorded and will be available on the Global Ambition website. We will also be sending it to all attendees on today's webinar. If you have specific questions regarding the content of Brian's presentation or Andrea's presentation, you can reach out to them or send us an email, and we will forward this. As Paul already mentioned, if any question regarding supports discussed today, if you have any questions regarding supports, reach out to your development advisor in East Point. We would like to thank our speakers on today's webinar, Brian English from Qupact and Dr. Andrea Seidel from Seidel Life Sciences, and Paul Browne from Enterprise Ireland Sales and Marketing Unit, and my colleagues here in Düsseldorf, Heike and Qupact Gordon. Have a great afternoon, everybody.